This is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast, hosted by me, Kelly Donahue Piro. This show is for growing insurance agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. Listen to the top agency performance partners clients share their story on how they boosted their performance by executing a plan. Let's head to the show. Hey everyone, Kelly Donahue Piro here. So grateful you're joining us for our mashups of the 4 videos for this week. So what we wanted to do is confront some insurance false beliefs, because as I'm getting more and more back out in the road, it's like I can't unsee them. I just see them everywhere, and I just feel like it's such a challenge because we have limiting beliefs. We have things in our head that just are holding us back, and I wanted to try to confront them up front. So we came up with our four false beliefs, which are: do you have to do it fast or right? And there's this conflict in insurance right now. Speed, get through everything, boom, boom, boom. And I'm really trying to help people be right. Like you can be fast, or you could take 30 seconds more and do it right. And it's this extra 30 seconds or a minute is tripping up a lot of things in agencies. Next is, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to cross-sell. I don't have time to run that report. I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to attach applications. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, when people come at it so heavy up front, I don't have the time. I'm always like, stop and be curious. How do I get the time? How do I see the value? It's really so much more of a defense mechanism than anything. And it's hurting us all, because when we keep saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, it's like slamming a door in people's faces. And we can say, let's get the time to do it right or fast. Keeps going back to that right or fast thing, right? Next one, customers don't want to be on the phone that long. And I was just say, do customers, when they're making a payment, say, you have a minute and 30 seconds, go? No. What we have to do is identify that customers don't want to be on the phone with somebody that sounds like a wet paper towel. They want to be on the phone with somebody engaging, educational, brightening their day. And then people are totally open to spending a couple moments more to learn something new. And the last one that we have is, oh my gosh, this one's just one that I always just feel needs to be said. Can we all stop being miserable in insurance? And I'm serious on this one. I just am so over it's so busy. It's so busy. And all this is stemming from a whole situation that we like to call service versus sales, right? So as we go into agencies, obviously we're focused on growth, because growth is fun. But we hear this big false belief over time. And this is the 4th false belief we're going to talk about. Well, Kelly, I do have to service clients too. And they say it just like that. You may have said this to me if you're listening to it. And I want you to think about your face and your demeanor, because it was something like that, because I get it all the time. And I don't understand why they're 2 different buckets. I think that loving our clients and educating and welcoming new people in is all part of our job. It's not one or the other, but account managers tend to love transactions, speed through transactions. And then if I have time, I will get to sales. And sales is not a dirty word. For most of the agencies we work with, they're getting nice, warm leads, referrals, people calling in from Google because they researched you. They're getting cross sells. And it's like, no, this is an awesome opportunity. And taking 2 extra seconds to ask is not different. So I really want to empower, and I really want to encourage people not to think about sales versus service, and not to get the tood with I do have clients to service, I'm like, we understand that, but welcoming new people into our agency should be a function of everybody. And if time is the issue, we have to unpack that. But what I also understand is most people at 5 o'clock are in their car in their parking lot, not thinking like, oh, I have to finish this endorsement. Time and people grow to the size of their time, and understanding the highest best use of your time is something we all need to embrace in insurance, because we want to get there and we want to have people help, and we want to understand how to help. So if you like this podcast, or if you're watching it on YouTube, like it, please tell your friends. If you've noticed, we don't do any ads except for some of our own services, just to educate people, because we want to help agencies more than anything. And we do have referral partners, some of my closest friends or vendors. And if it's a right fit for you and we work with you, we will recommend those people. But I don't think our podcast is a place to do that. I think our podcast is a place to really help agencies, give you some food for thought, and open up the discussion on things holding us back. So as you know, we're the podcast for agencies with growing teams, people who have the people, your brand ambassadors, and putting them to work for your agency. So if you know anyone who could use it, let us know. Share the podcast, like it, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much. We're going to dive in these videos. All right, video number 1, fast versus right. Can't even unsee this anymore. Like these videos are like the 4 things bothering me right now. Like if I had a confessional or I wanted my soapbox, and maybe I have some pent upness because we're not doing as many events and public speaking where usually I can let it all out. And but they're coming soon. June, we're getting back out on doing our first speaking events, and I cannot wait to see people and be in front of them. But fast versus right. We have this mentality of speed, do this. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, as independent agents, we want to be different and unique. And we're just literally jamming everybody through a process. And we're not educating and we're not making sure it's done right. I really believe people come to an independent agent because they want that relationship. They want someone looking out for them. So, you'll hear me go through a few examples, but I want you to really unpack this in your agency. Are we doing it right or fast? So as we launch checklists in agencies, what we see is people go, oh my gosh, there's so many steps. Oh my gosh, we don't have time. I don't need this. I know how to do my job. And the veteran employees especially really get angry about having a checklist. And I say, Delta pilot, I fly all the time. They have a checklist and it's amazing and I want that. So how can we continue to embrace the idea that our brain doesn't always work and that we don't want to cut corners, and that's what checklists help us do. So check this video out. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everyone, Kelly Donahue-Piro here, and we're launching this week a series on 4 major insurance false beliefs that we see out there. And the false belief I want to talk about today is fast versus right. Inevitably, anytime we launch any programs with agencies, they have one thing, oh my God, that's going to take forever. Whether they see a checklist or a form. And a lot of times it's because we're speeding through everything and making it a transaction. We're not stopping and thinking about an outcome. A great example is, personal lines endorsement. So you can speed through and change a vehicle, but you didn't talk about gap coverage. You didn't go ahead and determine, did they need a different level of rental car reimbursement? Was it an opportunity to review the account? And we so many times think that clients just want to get off the phone with us, but they don't. They want it done right. And all these issues that come up later on are because it wasn't done right. Whether we lose a client because another agent looks at the policy and says, oh, you don't have this, and it destroys us. Whether there's a claim and people are ticked. All of it goes into, we have to embrace the idea it's got to be done right. And people are okay doing that. No one calls into their insurance agent and says, you have 2 minutes and 22 seconds to change my vehicle. They just want it done efficiently and correctly. But in our head, we get so tripped up about time. And I think it's on both sides. We think the client doesn't have time, and then we also don't think we've got the time. But asking the right questions doesn't take hours. It takes moments, and then it's done right the first time. I'm seeing this more and more, even with our renewal review calls. We have an express form and a long form. I make everyone start with the long form. And the reason that is because they start seeing how many mistakes there are in the files. And then depending on the agency, what's going on, we can change it up. That long form is detailed for a reason. It's meant to say we have to clean up these accounts. And we have to get out of this idea of transaction, bury our head and steam through everything, because it's not going to win in the long run. If you want to be a boutique agency that's not taking on everybody and their mother, you have to start by embracing this concept, and there's no way around it. So hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you on our next false belief tomorrow. Next up, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would probably have a nonprofit campaign for insurance to stop using this one term. I don't have time for that. I struggle with this so much, and I said this to an agency owner yesterday. Imagine, now I come from corporately owned businesses, right? So bank owned. I've worked in banking for many, many years before I got on the tech side and came onto the training side to own my own firm. If I ever walked into my manager and said, I don't have time for that, I think he'd be like, and please give me your keys. We are so casual in insurance, telling our leaders, our owners, ourselves, we don't have time for this. It's such a mental block. How do you know you don't have time? Every single day of every single day, there's no time to ask somebody for their other policies. That's insanity. That is very dramatic and very unhelpful too. So when you start saying, I don't have time, I want you to stop and take a deep breath. How do you know you don't have time today? Has the day played out? No, what you're really saying is, I don't want to do another thing that may lead to more work for me. And that's something we have to really work through, because that other thing could be the thing that helps the client, helps the agency, helps your team, helps everybody the most. And when you get standoffish like that, it's literally going on strike against cross-selling or whatever's being asked of you. So check yourself before you start putting out those words and watch this 3-minute video. So the next false belief I want to dive into is this concept: I don't have the time. We don't have the time. It's so busy here. There's no way that we can do that. And I want to unpack this for a lot of reasons. As we talked about in yesterday's video, the whole idea of fast or right keeps coming back into my mind. And I want to say, why don't we have the time? So whenever people use the word busy, I say it's a grievance on the day. It's not a plan. And if the plan is you show up with no plan for the day, no setup, organizational strategy, we call it like a morning ritual of how you start your day. Do you eat your frog? Do you check your email first? You can totally get sucked into the vortex of the day and never feel like you have enough time for anything. You have to be intentional with your time, and you have to have a value system of, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do first call resolution, and I'm going to take that time on the phone and nail it all down, tie it up with a bow, and be able to give 100% of my attention to the next client. We have to make this decision between, are we McDonald's or are we a fine steakhouse? And I think so many agencies are stuck somewhere in between. And it's all good if you want to be a fast casual Chipotle, but own that and be okay with the fact that you have to have an assembly line set up that's going to fit. So maybe people we're okay with a 10-minute wait for a burrito. Burritos and insurance always go together, right? I want to be very clear on the idea that somebody says we don't have the time and they haven't taken a deep breath to unpack how it may work or talk through it or say, tell me more. How can we fit that into the day? Is there something else that's less important? That basically what they're saying is they're living in that chaos, which surrounds insurance and is killing our account managers. The idea that I'm kind of addicted to the fact the person calls, I do this, the person calls, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. And all the work that requires our brain that piles stresses us out because we're doing a remark, we got to pick up that phone, which I agree, depending on how your agency's set up, you have to pick up that phone, but you can catch it and place it and catch it and place it. But instead we keep moving in between all these files and going like this, like this, like this. And what we're really saying a lot of times when we don't have the time is I don't have the energy. I don't know how I'm going to slow down to do that because we're so addicted to this other pace of life. And so I'm very passionate by saying we don't have the time, but let's really unpack it. If we stop here, say practice first call resolution, there's no trailing work. What's the difference of time? The difference is I have all these other piling little things that are stressing me out and I want to clear everything before I can get to the next thing. We have to retrain our brain. And I can literally see it on account managers, their face goes, and it's almost like an addiction that we have to unpack. And that's why I'm so passionate about our time management program. That's why I'm so passionate about people having a plan for the day. And I think so often there's no plan and there's no belief that there can be a plan because I don't know what's going to come in. We just throw our hands up in the air. And I always say, you know what's interesting? I use this analogy a lot in our time management is ER nurses truly don't know what's going to walk in that door, yet there's a plan. There's an A and a B and a C. And if there's catastrophic weather, if there's a huge event, they have plans of how they're going to operate that ER. In insurance, we don't have any plans other than we're going to go on a roller coaster of a day and kill ourselves. And it's literally working the most inefficient way possible. So if your agency is saying, I don't have time, and I'm going to unpack this one more time. Cross-selling is probably the greatest example of this. I think two things hold account managers back from cross-selling. One, it's the S word of sales, thinking that's not them, that's uncomfortable. I just want to do what the person asks and move on. And really having some deep, consistent, routine, repetitive conversations to unpack that is a huge key to success because so much of it is a mental capacity. I always say to people, it hurts my heart when a client of my client buys that policy somewhere else because they didn't know we did it. And that's on us. So there's a component of cross-selling of fear, uncertainty, doubt, not identifying as a sales professional. Then there's the idea, well, I've already got 700 other things to do. If I quote it, if I ask,
They're going to have questions. Then I'm going to have to quote it. Then I'm going to have to bind it. Then I'm going to have to service it. It's easier for me to go on to the next thing and save the, $8 in commission or whatever it is that people have. We always say, hold up. You have to unpack that and slow that down. If you believe you have a 100% closing ratio, that's amazing. A lot of times we're just going to plant a bunch of seeds and they're going to call us back. And when someone calls us and asks for a quote, we definitely rise to that occasion. So that is like a perfect example of I'm too busy, but they're not going to say I'm too busy. Their actions are going to show you that they're too busy to cross up. This whole thing in insurance has gotten really, really terrible, to be honest with you. And we have some so far off a brand. Most of our clients want to be the boutique agency, but we're operating it again like a McDonald's. And the frontline staff is just trying to push people through the drive-thru as quick as they can, as opposed to stopping and saying, hey, let's have a great experience here with the client. And some of the things that hold us back are the, over servicing the crappy clients. I'm sorry, but every agency has to address this at some point. Who are the clients that we are not making money off of? Who do we need to move away from so that we do have time to spend it with the other ones? We do not need to be everything to everybody. And as an agency leader, that's something that you have to unpack and help your agency identify. So that's our false belief number 2, which is I don't have time. The answer is if we're operating as chaos, we do not have time. However, if we can unpack this and get to a place where we can be intentional with our time and have an organizational strategy and run our agency like an ER with different plans, you do have time. But it's putting the good stuff into that time that sometimes we have a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt on. So it's a lot easier to stay in chaos. So that's my 2-minute, or probably longer on this one, 3-minute tip for the day. And we're going to confront another false belief tomorrow. Tomorrow's false belief, let me just look at my notes here. Customers don't want to be on the phone with us. So can't wait to talk about that one. We'll see you then.
Hi, Agent. Kelly Donahue-Pero here. And I just want to let you know that we have some amazing things available to you on our online store. I know every agency is in need of great processes and procedures. And so we've pulled together some of our top ones that include scripts, workflows, etc., all together so you don't have to think about it. All of our process packs have videos, outlines, and usable content that you can go get started with today. They're also amenable. So what that means is that you can go ahead and twist them and edit them and make them your very own. So think of it as a starting point. I don't believe any agency should have to recreate the wheel for things that are already out there. So go ahead, dive in, take a look at some of our process packs. We have how to stop a cancellation, personalized endorsements, setting goals. We also have job descriptions and how to hire talent. So those are just a handful, and we're adding more all the time. So don't be shy about taking a look at it. Go ahead and go to agencyperformancepartners.com/shop, and you'll see all of our online store, including our ridiculously amazing agent swag. Hope to see you over there. Thanks so much.
We hear this one all the time. Customers don't want to be on the phone with us that long. And I'm thinking to myself, is that something you should be sharing? Isn't that something you should be trying to work harder at? Because if they don't want to be on the phone with you that long, is that a you problem? You're in customer service. People should want to be on the phone with you because you are nice and fun and caring and they feel special. So if customers don't want to be on the phone with you, it might be more of a you problem than a customer problem. And I've never seen someone go ahead and time you that, what you're really saying is you want to speed through everything because you got 3 emails and 2 voicemails and 10 suspenses today. Customers don't want to be on the phone with you. You maybe don't want to be on the phone with customers, and try to take that false belief to the bank and watch this 3-minute video. So now we're here on false belief number 3. And this one is one that we hear when we talk about something and it just jumps right into the conversation. And that is customers do not want to be on the phone with us. And I always say to them, how do we know? Are they telling you how long is this going to take? Why are you there? I don't believe that when someone calls in to make a payment that they are saying, you know what, you got 2 minutes and 30 seconds, go. I think most people don't want a laborious process, but they don't have an expectation of how long it's going to take. My inclination is that when people say they don't want to be on the phone with us, if you really unpack that, the real story is actually, I don't feel like I have time to do that. I want to do a transaction, get off the phone and crush the stack of paper as quick as possible. And we have to unwind that. We have to be in the business of outcomes, not transactions. Anyone can do a transaction. An outcome is different. So here's the story. It's 4:30 on a Friday. Your agency closes at 5. Someone calls in to make a payment. Do you stop and educate them on EFT? Now, some of you right now are thinking, people just want to be off the phone. They don't want to do it. It's Friday at 4:30. I want you to outline what that looks like. If you keep taking that payment every Friday at 4:30 for the whole year, it's 2 to 3 hours of time, and their time too. So if people truly don't want to be on the phone, they might just want to get on a better payment strategy. But in so many instances, we go ahead and we think time in two lanes, the client's time and our time. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we say the client doesn't want to, we're saying, I don't feel like I have the space to do this. And we become in this addictive manner, putting our hand down on boop, 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 boop. And the problem with that is that leads to mistakes, challenges, cut corners, more meetings. It does not save us time. I want to repeat that. That actually does not save us time. What it ends up doing is it causes more times of meetings, of reports, of questions, of going back and fixing things. Not time saving, okay? Everybody needs to take a deep breath and figure out if we're going to do it right or fast, which was the video I did earlier this week. But the idea that we're just going to blow through everything, speed through everything, jam everything down, I just can't get there because I don't believe that that's the model that people want. If I'm buying a new vehicle, I don't have any expectation that it's going to be done in 30 seconds. In fact, I probably have some questions that I don't know about because I'm so excited about buying a car that I'm not thinking about gap coverage, or I'm not thinking about the difference in rental car reimbursement. That is, guys, what I have a you for, is to think about that stuff for me. And so when we hear clients don't want to be on the phone that long, and this is even going ahead and talking about quoting over the phone, they don't want to be on the phone that long. And I always say, have you done it? No. How do you know? Or if you're worried about it, let's give people the option. But you'll sense a false belief because people jump into that as opposed to, let me learn more. How does that work, Kelly? How do you have other agencies do it? How do you have other agencies remarket over the phone? I want to learn more. It's no. And that is what makes it a false belief. We'll see you in tomorrow's lesson. Final false belief, and this one I'm particularly fond of. This is the whole idea of service or sales. When people service and sell, they often feel it's two different hats, that they have buckets for each, and there's no blending and there's no crossover. And that's so untrue, because for most people who service and sell, they're selling cross sells, they're selling referrals, they're selling really low hanging fruit. And the thing that we want to really adapt and address is the idea that, you know what, they can be a blended strategy. It's not when I have time, I sell. Because sales is not a dirty word. Sales is inviting people to understand how we can help them and benefit them. And if we take the heart of a teacher and we take education to heart, we want to educate people, because a little piece of you should die when a client buys a policy from another agency that you sell. You should get mad about that. And you should get ashamed when, you're saying the thing, I just didn't have the time to ask them. Shame on you. And that's why that's a false belief in insurance that we have built up, and it is not cool, and it's not pretty, and it is not something we should be saying to people. So at the end of the day, can't be thinking that, it's sales or service, or I have clients to service too. That's just a really snarky, horrible comment, by the way. Now you're seeing a lot of the comments I get. Now, luckily, when I go into agencies, I'm kind of tough. I'm kind of emotionally strong, so I don't take it too personally. I look at it like, I'm going to convert you. And we do that over time. So if you're seeing it's service or sales, I want to stop for a second, have you take a big old deep breath and realize, hey, listen, it can be both, and we can do both well and successfully if we have the right plan, and become curious on how that plan works. So you can open your mind up, get rid of that false belief, push it out your eardrum, and go next. We'll see you in this next 3-minute video. All right, everyone. So here's our final false belief in insurance. And this one I think is so critical, which is service or sales. And this is one where if you're in a role where we have to do both, and by the way, I believe everybody in an agency has some form of sales that they need to be doing. So what we need to be thinking about is it's not service or sales. I don't have time to sell because of service. I don't have time to follow up because of service. That is the wrong broken thinking. It's not one or the other. And here's the thing. We grow to the size of our tank, like a koi fish, which means when you're servicing accounts, you may think I can't get to it because that's a whole different hat. I have to go into sales mode. I'm going to stay in service mode. The best account managers out there make it one fluid motion. No big deal. I'm going to interchangeably go into both modes. But we stick with what we like. And for many account managers, they navigate towards service because it's always there. It's coming at you. Service finds you. But it takes no more time to make a recommendation to a client. What, 30 seconds? That's not going to change anything. In our head, though, we think if I make a recommendation, they're going to have questions. They're going to want me to quote it. I have to bind it. I have to service it. My dear Lord, I don't have time for that. But that's the wrong mentality. That is such a broken mentality. The mentality we have to have is we want to educate, we want to delight, we want to make sure clients have all the coverages that they need. And that is my number one priority. All of the other little 2-minute tasks will get done today. What won't get done is compartmentalizing it. Or we let the follow-ups on sales go because we're too busy. So we just spent an hour quoting it, but we're not going to follow up on it. That takes 30 seconds. That's the definition of insanity. We need to break up these two buckets of, well, I don't have time to sell because I'm so busy servicing. I'm like, heck no. We need to blend them together. Our job is account management. Our job is agency growth. Our job is to make sure all the people, prospects and customers, are loved. And that means that sometimes we have to educate, brighten their day. But when I hear that false belief of I don't have time, the service here is just too crazy, I have to serve, or here's one, I have to service accounts too, Yes, of course you do. But there's 8 hours in a day and we need to be efficient and effective. And that mentality of these two buckets is one of the biggest breakthroughs we have to have is it's all one. By giving great service to my client, I'm educating and I'm enthusiastic and I want them to have all their insurance here. Or great news, there's a new prospect. Let me follow up with them because I want to see if they can come forward. But we think once all of our service work is done, then I'll get over here. No, the mentality is account management is developing and defining those relationships so you can hit home runs. And so that is a huge false belief we see all the time, and it kind of makes my skin cringe. I'm like, whenever I hear that we have other accounts to service, I'm not just only selling, I'm like, oh, in our mind, no one is having an open mind to say, how can I blend the two? And that is the thing. We have to be curious. We have to be thinking how, not, I can't. Sad face. So that's my 2 cents for today. We're going to wrap up tomorrow with a whole overview of all of our false beliefs. All right, we made it. We got everything off my chest. I feel a million times better sharing that with all you guys of these false beliefs, because being back out on the road, it's one thing to see it on Zoom. It's another thing to breathe it in and see the person's full facial reactions and everything else. And I've just felt like this was an important thing to say because I'm not a believer of false beliefs. False beliefs are often something we tell ourselves to stay safe and protected and small and basic at the end of the day. And my whole point in life is to help agents hit their potential. And these are things hurting our agents and our agency's potential because we're so sucked into this story we're telling ourselves. It's not true and it's not factual and it's holding us back. And honestly, it's making us look unprofessional. It's not helping us make more money through agency incentives and goals and bonuses. And the other thing is, it's holding us down like a wet blanket, man. It is not healthy. So next time you have a thought come in your head that's a reaction to something, I want you to take a deep breath and say, we need to respond and we need to have a good time. And I need to think through this. And I say, is there a way? How do I understand it? Oh, and by the way, how are other people in my role doing it so I can learn? In insurance, we have a big problem where we stop learning and we got to stop that. So those are our 3-minute videos for the week. So happy you joined us. Hopefully you enjoyed them. Share them, like them. Tell everybody about them because we spend a lot of time on these and want to make sure that they're of value. If you have anything you want us to address, reach out. We would love that. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video and you catch us next week as we release our next 3-minute videos.